everyone. Hope you had a beautiful week. We finished 3 weeks and we are starting our fourth week today. And today and by Thursday, this Thursday, our AC 101 will be finished. And we will be starting AC 104, which is yoga therapy, and AC 102, which is Ayurvedic nutrition from October 29th. So, we actually from the classes are all finished. Uh, the homework part, of course, you have to do by yourself. So that's great. We are moving right along, and it's been a nice week. It was Diwali this week. This is a very auspicious week. So I pray to Sri Ganesh. I pray to Saraswati and Lakshmi to bless us, and may the knowledge of Ayurveda come and stick and be all auspicious. All right, so the topic for today is a Vata dosha and Ritucharya, which is nature, seasonal cycle, and Pitta dosha. So we're just going to do like a quick overview of Vata dosha, Pitta dosha, and nature cycle. And on Thursday, we do Kapha dosha. And when we start AC 103, sometime in end of November, then in AC 103, you will see that we will also go into these doshas in a lot of detail. Okay. So as we know, Vata is a combination of space and air. I actually don't like to use the word ether because it has other connotations. So I'm just going to write space and air. Do you remember, we have done it so many times in the past, do you remember any how space manifests? No, yes? If not, that's okay. So think of, there's space and air manifests in our body in different ways, right? And we did it in the Pancha Mahabhuta, the 5 elements. We did this, Atul did this in the 5 elements and 20 gunas. It is literally like, if you had if you've studied chemistry, there's organic chemistry has a formula. You combine this element with that element and it becomes a third element. Really, this is like a Panchamahabhut also has a formula. The formula is Vata is made of space and air, and the Pitta for fire and water, and Kapha, earth and water. And the gunas and the qualities of this is also present in food, it's present in doshas, it's present in our body, and it's all about balancing the elements, if you think about it. So let's kind of break it down. We've been introducing this concept to you from day one. Let's start breaking it down today. So let's review the qualities of space. So you've already studied, and I'm just reviewing it very, very quickly. I have 2 presentations to do, 2, 3. We studied that space is manifested as space in ears or nerves or cell, and even spaces in the hollow organs of the body. So you have hollow organs in the body, and then you have the non-hollow organs. That's space in the organs of the body, space in the intestine. It's a hollow organ. Food and stool has to travel through it. Colon, nerves. There's space there. I mean, even the cells of the bones, if you look under a microscope, the osteocytes, the cells of the bones actually have holes in them. If you see someone with osteoporosis, the holes get bigger. So there's space in it. And of course, we know the mental manifestation of space is a lack of clarity, being distracted, a lack of mental focus, and so on and so forth. And let's look at air. This is just a review. You've already done it. Physically, where is air? I mean, when we breathe in, we are breathing in 21% oxygen. So the oxygen is going in our body, and the oxygen is taken by the lungs, and the lungs are connected to the heart through the pulmonary artery and the pulmonary vein. And the lung is taking this oxygen, and there's something called alveoli, and it's depositing all this oxygen in the blood, and then blood is going and circulating it everywhere, right? So that is actually what pran is in Ayurveda. From clinical perspective, we have been doing pranavaha shrotas in the counselor program for people who started in June, we are actually getting into diseases now. So this is a disease, issue with prana. So there is pran. So this is also always a big problem for me trying to explain. So pran is life force, but clinically pran is also oxygen. If you think about it, when we breathe in, we are breathing in pran, right? The 21% of that is oxygen, and that does need to go in the blood. And hemoglobin, that oxygen needs to be used by the blood, and also it's distributed all over the body. So that is a manifestation. That pran and air is the same thing. And then of course, the CO2 is collected and then we exhale that. So all the respiratory gases, even when you're farting and there is gas, it's all air, right? If anybody's had flatulence or you feel heavy after eating or bloated, that is air. And I don't know if anyone's had a baby here. For those of you who've had, you know what I'm talking about. This, after, as soon as you've given birth, there's like this big space in the belly. That is, and that's why immediately after postpartum, giving vata pacifying protocols to a woman, it doesn't matter whether she's vata, dosha, pitta, or kapha. Immediately vata is so high that she needs to be given. Obviously, a kapha will find balance a little bit more quicker than a vata person, but vata needs to be balanced in every woman who's given birth, because there's so much air and there's so much space in the belly. The uterus was like ballooned up literally with this huge balloon filled with water, the amniotic fluid in the baby, and now there's nothing. And the uterus keeps on contracting even when a woman is nursing. And I've gone totally off the topic, so let's come back. Even the motor response. So motor response, if you touch your if there was no element of air, you could not really feel that sensation of touch, and the nerves that are, taking that touch response. It's connected to air. Then also peristalsis. So, air, if you have a hollow space and there's air in it, there's something called air pressure. And then there's also the body will make use, the body will, just to give example, even in the heart. So heart has this, heart beats. Heart has these things called valves, right? And the valves are kind of like little magic doors that let some blood in and do not let it out. There's like 4 valves. And they are moving, and the heart muscle is, the cardiac muscle is, it is making a movement. That movement is possible because of that air element. Whether that movement is happening within the muscle like heart, or if it's a movement of food from your from your stomach to your duodenum to your ileum to your intestine, all of that is a combination, that is a manifestation of the air element. So if someone is having, where the food gets stuck, or any of those, any movement, if it moves, it's air. Nothing can move by itself. It needs a passage. If you want to go from A to B, if you want to leave your house, get into the car and go whatever, you need to travel on a road, right? You need a pathway, and there needs to be an energy that pushes you forward. So even though there's a lot of energies that are being used, that air that's what's doing it. I hope that I'm trying to, because this is such a abstract concept, and I know we've already introduced it. I really want to break it down today. And of course, the mental manifestation is emotional fear, anxiety. This is another thing why, if you think about it, if air and space becomes high in a postpartum woman after giving birth, then of course emotional fear and anxiety create, this will also become higher in a postpartum woman. That's why, if you think about it, why women can have postpartum depression, it's completely makes sense, right? Because that space gives rise to a mental vata dosha for everybody, not just a vata woman, for every woman who's had a baby. So let's go back and again review. This is all a review before we kind of break it down. All of these things have been introduced before. Let's look at the first quality, the dryness. Ruksha is the Sanskrit word, and dryness. So a vata person tends to have what? Dry what? Now I'm going to open my chat window and you can put it in the chat. What is the manifestation of dry. Very good. Okay, I'm not sure if you can see the chat on the screen or not, so everybody can see it. Yeah, dry skin, dry hair. What about dryness inside the body? Where in the body would dryness? Yes, Shan. So there's dryness in the colon. So intestines are supposed to, take excessive water from the body. If there's not enough water in the intestine, in the colon, it leads to constipation. So the dryness is manifesting as constipation. Is the dryness also manifesting as the sense of I'm going to come back and ask you that question again because it will make sense more as I move forward. Let's go look at the light. So very simple. What is the quality of laghu or light manifesting in a vata person as? And even if a person has a vata disorder or a disorder associated with vata, the lightness or these gunas, these attributes would be part of the disease. This person is very light. A person can feel lightheaded. A person can have low weight. Let me write that down here. Lightheaded, low weight. Yes. We'll come. Yeah. So think of lightness and what? Clinically, what? Great answers. Think about light periods. Does it make sense? Not heavy periods, lightheaded, low weight, lightweight. Does it make sense? Think of how it is coming in the body. A person is unable to gain weight. They get low periods because there's not a lot of heavy periods. Heavy periods with clotting is seen either in kapha or pitta person, not in a vata. If it's a vata person and they're having heavy duty, then there's a pathological deviation there, right? Shita, cold. This is pretty easy. Anybody? Yes. Cold extremities. So hands and feet are cold circulation. Things feel cold. Also sometimes, a little bit sometimes when a vata is out of balance, then vata person mentally needs a little bit of hand holding because they're so sensitive. Their heart can get, kind of cold very quickly. Does that make sense? So it's also mentally exhibiting as well. And yes, from positive, I'm giving you all the negative because I'm trying to tell you what pathology is. But, for example, like Robin mentioned, the being forgetful, and light is also being creative. So to be able to create something, you need space, right? So that quality of lightness makes vata people extremely creative. On the opposite end of the spectrum, yeah. Rough, khara. Where would this roughness be? To give you a hint, it goes together with ruksha or dry. Have you ever had, have you ever gone to a place where there's a lot of wind? Or let's say you were in a plane and you were in a plane for hours and it's wind, and then you got off and you were in a windy place. Have you noticed how your hair become rough and dry, or skin becomes rough and dry? So usually when there's dryness, the skin will become rough, the hair will become rough. And also, right now, it may not make sense when we look at about the person's tongue, or we are trying to find out the pathology. Things actually kind of look rough. Even the tongue looks rough in the sense it's not like a pink dot or a red dot that we are looking at. We are looking at like roughness even in the texture as well. Hope that makes sense. Subtle. So I talked about that, so a creative vata person are very, for example, fine arts, for example, classical music, fine arts, classical dance, uh, writing, all of these require a very like a subtle intelligence, right? So, and also, you know, being psychic almost, you know, very intuitive and psychic. That's a great quality that a Vata person has. And it could be a Pitta person with a Vata mind too. It doesn't mean, you know, these are just generic. Every time Dr. Aparna does this presentation, she will always, because she's a Vata Pitta, and she's had many clients who says, "Oh my God, Vatas are so bad, and Kaphas have the most beautiful eyes." This is not saying you are bad or you're good or you're ugly or you're beautiful, or this has nothing to do with that. These are just qualities that may or may not express. I hope that makes sense. So she always tries to say, "No, being a Vata is great. There's nothing wrong. You just have to keep it balanced." Chala, mobile. So the mobile quality of Vata, Vata loves to move because it's air. Air moves, any kind of movement. So it's exhibited in love of walking and dancing and yoga. Sometimes it can go crazy. You know, if you over exercise, if you're exercising 3 hours a day and you're not a professional athlete and you're going nuts, you're gonna, and especially in certain seasons, yeah, like let's say it's hot outside or it's windy outside right now, let's say, for example, and I am a Vata, and I go out in this windy weather without covering my ears, without covering my head, in a lightweight, you know, like yoga pants or shirt, and I go for a run. So when I'm running and the wind is on me, that quality, I'm going to come back and I'm going to have some Vata disturbance immediately. Does that make sense? So what kind of environment are you? So over exercise will, you know, disturb Vata, especially if you're exercising in Vata conditions. Vishada, clear, again, clarity, intuition. This is all attributes of Vata. Let's go back, and we've done this before. I'm not sure if we have, but let's look at where the Vayu. So we are introducing you to the 5 subdoshas of Vata, but we are not going to go in detail unless when we go to AC 103 sometime in November. In November, we're going to start AC 103 along with AC. So we're going to be doing 2 or 3 things at the same time instead of just one thing. And then we'll start breaking down these concepts of subdoshas of Vayu or Vata. So the first one is prana, the vital force. And of course, you know, if you're a yoga teacher, you're in a yoga class, or you look at the internet, prana is like the chi, it's the vital force, and that is absolutely correct. But there is a place, if it's vital force, it should be all over the body, right? But think just, and it's a very difficult concept to understand, because we are saying that pran is not just the vital force, it's also the oxygen. We are also saying pran is a subdosha of Vayu. Just for understanding, just for me, just to help me help you, try and think that there are 3 prans. Although they are not 3, they're 1. One pran is the life force. Another pran is the oxygen. That is, so the oxygen that we are taking in that's residing here is pran. And then there is the pran that resides in the brain. What will happen if oxygen and blood supply is cut from the brain? You die, right? So everything we talked about before, like the sthana or domain, or where, you know, Vata resides is in the colon. We had talked about that. So subdoshas there are 5 subdoshas of Vayu. There are 5 subdoshas of Vata. We are just, again, introducing you today, and then we keep on going and, you know, breaking it down further. Then we break it down further, and you will see, like, I don't know if you've already seen a pattern. We do a lot of repetitions, so it actually sinks in. So just for the learning, just for the sake of learning, think there are 3 prans. One pran is oxygen, one pran is vital force, and one pran is subdosha of Vayu or Vata. You will see sometimes, I don't like to say Vata, I end up saying Vayu a lot. Vayu, Vata means the same thing. So pran is the vital force, it's the oxygen, and it is also a subdosha of vata. These three things you remember, and for now, just keep them separate. Do not think of all of it as one. It will make sense eventually. Remember, Ayurveda is like, it's like learning another language. Uh-oh. Okay. And then you have Udana. So Pran is in the head and Utan is upward movement. So whenever we look up or put our hands up or there is a movement that goes upwards, if you've ever had vomiting, right? If you've ever had nausea and vomiting and you felt like vomiting, what is the movement of vomiting? It is upward movement. So, or if you've ever had acidity or acid reflux, things kind of come up. So Udana is that upward movement. So it's coming up. Pran is residing here. This is coming up. And again, like I said, we are just introducing you to the concept today. Vyan is the vehicle of circulation and pulsation. So I'm going to talk just till I'm going to put the chat here and I want to ask, so who else is in the participants? We have, let me just see. Okay. Mandy, are you there? Let me see, you're there. So Mandy is a nurse. So Mandy, help me. And you can also type in. So if you want to help out. So, your cardiovascular circulation, you have the heart. There's a cardiovascular circulation. So heart has three kinds of circulation. So in the Western medicine, you have the systemic circulation, you have the pulmonary circulation, and you have the coronary circulation. So basically, heart is a muscle, and it beats. If you have a stethoscope and you hear it, there is a sound that it makes: labba dabba, labba dabba, labba dabba. And of course, that's siastole, diastole. I'm not going to get into that. The point is, it's a muscle and it's pulsating. That pulsation is Vyana Vayu. Because of that, that pulsation is created. As the pulsation is created, the circulation happens. So if you've studied anatomy, that makes 100% sense. So if you have not, so basically any kind of circulation that's happening, so heart is circulating blood within itself. It is then also circulating blood within the lungs, whereas the blood with absolutely, which they always show the blood is blue, but it's just dark red. Where it has no more oxygen and it goes in the lungs, and then lungs furnish it with oxygen and comes back to the heart. That lung to heart circulation is called a pulmonary circulation. And then of course there is the whole, there's a biggest artery in the body called aorta, and then the blood is going all over the body. There is the big artery, and then there's the smaller arteries, and you have the capillaries, and it's a systemic means all over. All of that circulation, whether it's this, whether it's a pulsation, whether it's even lymphatic, all that circulation of the heart, the pulsing of the heart is Vyanavata. Does that make sense? Labadaba, labadaba. And that, that makes the pumping motion is because of Vyanavata. The circulation is happening. But Vyana, just to say that cardiovascular circulation is Vyana is actually wrong, because Vyana is more than cardiovascular circulation. When we eat food and the food goes into, the food is then taken, distributed in the bloodstream, and it's being distributed to the body, that nutrients. And of course, oxygen is, pran is one of the nutrients. Oxygen is considered a nutrient, right? So all of that, not just cardiovascular circulation, any circulation in the body where things need to travel from A to B, that is under the purview of Vyana. But we always try to do this comparison between Western and Ayurveda. So mostly we can say it can be compared to cardiovascular, but all circulations are under the purview of that. So the Ayurveda is not dividing different circulation. Vyana is responsible for that. Does that make sense? And of course, Mandy has volunteered to help you out if you're interested. Sorry, Mandy. I'm sorry. I'm just kidding. Okay, she's like, oh my God, what did I just promise? Okay, just trying to make the mood a little light here. It's a lot of information in that one slide. So let's go back and please don't say prana. I will disown you as my student if you say prana. Prana, prana. And don't say prana, it's prana. Udana, vyana, samana. Let's do it again. Let me annotate it. I really want my students to have good pronunciation. When I go to a yoga class, let me give you one example. I went to a yoga class some years ago. There was a 21-year-old young kid who was doing her yoga teacher training, and she started the class with this verse which said, "May no one be injured in the class." And she actually ended up saying, it sounded something like, "May everybody be injured in the class," because her pronunciation was not good. Because Sanskrit is very subtle. Prana. Can everybody say that? I hope you did. Udana. Not udana, udana. Vyana. Done? So this is all one syllable. Prana, udana, vyana, samana. This is two. So in Sanskrit, there is no syllable stress. It's either long or short. So pran, udan, vyan is all long. Here you have a short and a long. Samana, saman. Okay? So saman is, I just talked about when you have your food and the food gets digested in your body, and then the food has to travel to the intestine. And we were just talking about the qualities of space and air. And if the food, the peristalsis is not happening, if the food is not moving down properly from the stomach towards the duodenum, that's where it starts traveling, then there's this feeling of heaviness. There's this feeling of, oh my God, food feels heavy. There's this feeling of bloating. Think of saman as if you use a blender and if you made a smoothie or a juice. So that blending motion that leads to things getting blended, that's literally what saman is doing to the food in the body. So balancing, it's basically digestion and assimilation of food. Hope that makes sense. This just literally, it's almost like a centrifugal force. It's almost like a churning, it's kind of churning the food in one sense so that the food can be assimilated. Because by the time food is going through in the stomach, the food has turned into this bolus mass of, it's a bolus mixed with the hydrochloric acid and digestive enzymes, which are the pachak pitta. And then now it is moving towards duodenum and it's getting all churned up. So because as it moves down, the nutrients in the water will be sucked out, and, it'll go down its journey in the digestive tract and come out as mala, come out as feces, as stool. So samana in the upper area, and as it moves down to your rectum, anus, to your intestine, where there is a downward force that is going to expel that feces, is called apana. So elimination of semen for even reproductive fluids of women, urine, feces, and labor pain. Labor pain, it's going down, it's pushing the baby down so it can come out. All of that downward portion, downward movement and force is apana. And usually a lot of problems, so this apana, if there's too much downward movement, there's a problem. If there's too much upward movement, there's a problem. If this is stuck, that's a problem. So all the vata issues, for most of time you'll hear us say, let's bring the vata back into balance. And sometimes you'll say, let's bring the vata down, meaning that if someone has constipation, that the vata, the apan force is not, maybe it's vitiated. So we want to bring it back into balance. Is this samana work with Agni in same function? I'm not understanding the question. Does saman blow? Yes. Okay, I understand what you're asking. Yes. So think of samana. So if samana, yes, you're right, it will. It does help the Agni. So this is where you find out where the Agni is balanced or not. If the Agni is Vishama Agni, if it's a variable Agni, then usually the first sign you see is Samana, and the second sign you will see is Apana. The Samana and Apana will not be, especially in Vishamagni, in Vata person, the constipation is there, dryness of colon is there, and food is not getting assimilated. So if you look at the tongue, there's bite marks, and these are like scalloped marks on the side of the tongue. And of course, we do that in detail in AC 102. Hope that makes sense. So now we already know what are the 5 types of Vayu, 5 types of Vata. Let's go and look at the 5 sites. Colon. Now you have to tell me in the chat window, what do you think, which sub dosha of Vata resides in the colon? The hint is it goes down. Anybody? Yes, yes. Apana goes down. What subdosha resides in the waist? It has a churning motion. Samana, very good. What subdosha resides in the brain? Yes, yes, excellent. So you understood, basically there's a, yeah. So let's talk about Vata Prakopa Karanam. Literally there is 2 words in Sanskrit. Kopa means it is unhappy, and Prakopa is it's extremely unhappy. So sometimes we'll say, oh, Vata is very extremely unhappy, very Indian English. I am the speaking, the Karanam is the cause. When Vata is unhappy, causes for provocation of Vata, they are suppression of natural urges. We have a 1-hour class that we do on it. For example, suppressing the urge to eat, suppressing the urge to pee, suppressing the urge to pass gas, suppressing the urge to pass stool, suppressing even sexual urges, suppressing hunger, suppressing thirst. These are all natural urges. Adhyashan, overeating. Jagaran. So this usually people who are Vata don't overeat. I'm Kapha. I am an overeater. I will eat without, even though I'm not hungry, because I don't even, it doesn't register in my brain. So I actually have made a point to eat slowly. So we Kaphas tend to overeat. So this is not, doesn't mean that only Vata person does it. Anybody can do it. So if you were staying staying up at night, like I have a friend, well, he's more like a, young god brother. He's a musician, and he's a famous musician here in Austin. And he goes and does these shows, and a lot of people come to his shows. And he has to stay up late at night, because by the time his, whatever practice and shows finish, he's coming back home at, 1 a.m., 2 a.m. at night. And so he got really disturbed. So we are doing Ayurveda treatments for him so he can come back home and go to bed and not do any stimulants at night. Because, it's really stimulating, like kind of rock band music at night. So his Vatas, and he's Vata already. He's a Vata to start with. So we've been giving him like herbs to balance his Vata and so on. Eating only ghee. He's eating food fried in ghee right now. And this is Uchchabhash. Literally, if somebody walks in the door and I say, hi, so tell me a little bit about yourself. And it's a 60-minute. And you usually have this thing. And I said, we have 60 minutes today. That's or 90 minutes, whatever they've signed up for. And then they start talking and they don't let you get a word in. Immediately, there is a Vata imbalance. And immediately, usually it's Udana Vayu. So I have to say, we have only 45 minutes left. And then they have to bring them back. But in the beginning, this is a problem that new sort of Ayurveda counselors have. They don't know how to control the interview with their clients. So, but that is an issue. I already mentioned excessive physical exercise will cause Vata imbalance. That includes excessive walking for 3 hours. Now, who walking is good for? A Kapha person. So a Kapha person should go for long walks and even But of course, a kapha person's aim is not going to do that. They're going to do a walk, but they're not going to walk for 10 miles. If they do, that's one of the best ways for kaphas. And of course, science has proven that to lose weight, to lose kapha, cardiovascular exercise is better than anything else, generally. So for a kapha person, this is so much better. It doesn't mean that vata is not walking. Just when we say excessive walking, I've known people, I'll give you one example. I mean, most of you are all young. Maybe Patricia, you know what I'm talking about. So there used to be this famous actress, whether she still is, and she did this leg lifts called Jane Fonda. Right? I loved Jane Fonda. I used to do her workouts when I was a kid. So she was a very vata. She did ballet and then she did her workouts. Getting some chat here. Yeah, so I don't know if you guys know who Jane Fonda is. Maybe Hannah, you know what Jane Fonda is. So I was very young. I was, oh my God, 28 miles. All right, 28 miles would get your vata crazy. The idea is she was exercising so much, she ended up having a heart attack, basically. So, and when I'm saying excessive exercise, excessive walking, she was doing 6 hours a day. So she was doing 6 hours a day. That's what we mean. That is excessive. And then eating too much pungent, bitter, or astringent food. So, normally a vata person doesn't like too much bitter food, karela, bitter gourd, and so on. And usually vata person tend to be a worrier. So, for me, they say that if you actually start worrying about things, you lose weight. I'm a happy person. I don't worry so much. When I worry, I tell myself, well, I'm worrying about it. At least I'll lose a few pounds. So yeah, happiness, it's hard to lose weight when you're happy. That's kind of the Ayurvedic thing here. Because when a vata person is worrying and thinking too much and being anxious, their vata will go up. They don't want their vata to go up, basically. Excessive sex, because when you have sex, then reproductive fluids have been ejaculated. It takes a good few days for all of them to kind of come back into balance. Becoming afraid of small things is important because some of the vata diseases are phobias. All the phobia, anything that ends with a phobia is a vata disease. Anything. So it's psychological, and when I give you an example, I get a lot of parents. Like I got a family yesterday. Their kid had vata dosha prakopa. The child was 2.5 years old and he had prakopa vata, constipated, hard stools. Shan, the child had the same thing that the kidney, had a problem where the child was born and the urine was going backwards. So they did a surgery and they did another surgery. And then after that, child was having constipation. And they were giving child Miralax, or which is basically a stool softener. You should not really be giving stool softener to a child. So they gave for 6 months and they didn't want to give anymore. So they came to me and I said, you can give Triphala. So what was happening is they noticed that whenever the child had chronic constipation, he would become afraid of things. He would show, because children are so sensitive, immediately he would show in his mind all these problems. But when he had a good bowel movement, he was like a normal kid. So immediately the parents were able to make out the constipation and his mental being afraid of things, and it had a connection. Doesn't make sense? So yeah, we gave the child Saraswati Arishta, and we gave Aravinda Arishta, and we gave Triphala and all that. So we'll see. Eating cold foods, this literally means, for example, I mean, I'm a vegetarian. I'm totally against meat eating, but I'm not, judgmental. If you eat it, that's fine. But what I do tell my Vata clients is, do not eat cold meats. Do not eat anything which is cold in temperature. So don't eat anything that's cold in temperature. That's kind of important. And cold meats are like a harbinger for all kind of diseases. And, they're not cooked. Nothing is dead. So in India, there's no cold salad in India, really. Everything is hot food, hot soups. Everything is cooked. Salad is not such a big thing. Even our salad, like in North India, is what we call chaat papadi. It's like, you have boiled potatoes and you have fried things with some herbs on the and some yogurt in the salad. So it's like, okay. Um, so eating cold foods in temperature and cooling foods, both. Think of it that way. Crying over small things. This is like, you know, how you see this habit in children. But, you know, oh, my big sister took my toy away. You know, children do that. But when you have an adult, when you have a grown up who are kind of petty, then that ends up, because that would lead to becoming, um, if you're, you know, if you're kind of not satisfied with what God has given you, you're unsatisfied, that leads to worrying and excessive thinking, that leads to vata prakopa. Which is why for Vayu, you know, just kind of letting go, going with the flow is very important. And the season that we are in right now, we're all in fall season. I have a cold. I don't know if you guys are going through it. Atul has a cold. You know, and it's a crazy season and everybody's vata increases. So I actually, is this one time of the year that I'll eat ghee. I look forward to it all year. When will fall come? I can eat ghee. Yes, this is how bad we are. We are so kind of kaffas are kind of, we love you know, ghee, but it's not good for us. So does it make sense? I'm just going to put my video on. I'm sorry, I'm kind of in my pajamas here. All right, tell me if anybody has any questions. Could you give some examples of when you know to increase vata or decrease vata when balanced? Okay. Okay, let me put, this is something that we, so you have a client, let's say her name is Jane Doe. She is a vata person. She's 52 years old and she's perimenopausal. Okay, can everybody see this? I'm sharing my whiteboard. Can everybody see this? Yes, can everybody see my whiteboard? Perfect, perfect. Okay, if you can turn off the check sign now, please, thank you. Because it has been on since before. All right, so you have Jane Doe, she's vata person, she's 52 years old, she's perimenopausal. So what will happen in perimenopause? So the age from 0 to 13 years is a kapha age because we are kind of growing. 13 approximately to about 45 years is kind of pitta age, and about 45 to around 50-ish, let me just gonna write, is about vata pitta age, and 50 and over is vata, and then more vata, and then more vata. So just by me saying 52 years old, you should know just by the age what dosha is influencing this person, irrespective of what their original dosha is. Does that make sense? I have right now 3 clients in their 60s. 3 clients. I have one client who's 60 and another 2 who are in their 60s, closer to 70. And they're all vata and they're postmenopausal. And they come to me for abhyanga massage. And yeah, I have to do, like, even in heat, I have to use sesame oil and I have to use a lot of oil on them because they don't have to do anything for their vatas to go crazy. Nothing. I just had this one, she went to somebody's party and she had 1 glass of wine and she had nuts and raw foods. And then she texted me, Monica, I had these rough foods. I can feel I'm going to have flatulence and gas. Why did I do that? Why did I do that? And she never cheats. So she cheated once. I'm like, it's okay to cheat once, but what should I do? I said, well, take 3 trifalas, hot milk with ghee so that you don't get constipated tomorrow. Anyway, the point is, when you're 0 to 13 years, it's kapha age. So irrespective of whether a child is vata, pitta, kapha, because this is the age when you're growing, your brain is growing, your body is growing, structurally you're growing. And this is a generic. For some kids, this is 0 to 14 or 15. Around this, the minute you start puberty, this can be 11 or 12. When the puberty starts, puberty is the start of the pitta influence. Because transformation is happening all the way up to 45 years of age. These are kind of our peak years. From 45 to 50 is kind of vata becomes stronger. So age, just by age, you should know that. Now you have a Jane Doe, she's vata person. She has a great diet. Let's say she follows all Ayurvedic lifestyle. Everything is great. She's vegetarian. She eats ghee. Da, 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 da. Still, her vata is going to go crazy and out of balance in the fall season. Why is that? Why is her vata going to go crazy in the fall season? Because of her age, and she will also have, pitta symptoms. But irrespective of whether it's a Jane Doe 52 fall season or if it's a vata person, quite healthy, tends to have constipation, and is, let's say a good, 19 years old. Irrespective of that, the same principles apply. So irrespective that the same principles apply, whether it's this or this, the difference would be in the dosage and how many days. For the Jane Doe, you might have to give herbs for this. For this person, one triphala and just vata pacifying protocol is enough. Maybe just for a few days. For her, maybe regularly. The principles of pacifying the dosha remain the same. And how do you know? Do you want me to save this for you guys? Do you want me to save this? Okay, I will save this. So in Jane Doe's case, even if she is being perfectly healthy, her vata still needs to be balanced all the time just because of her age and the fact she's perimenopausal. The healthy person who's vata, how do you know vata is unbalanced? Because they're constipated and they have dry hair, dry skin. So they will take a vata pacifying diet for, and maybe have triphala and things like that. Though the principle is same, but they don't even, like Jane Doe doesn't even need to show a symptom because being in that age, and if you have a woman, let me write it down, she's just had a baby, a healthy woman, just had vaginal delivery. I'm not even going to give her, what the dosha is. It doesn't matter. She would also need vata dosha pacification, because immediately after delivery, there's all this air and space that needs to be balanced. I hope that answers your question, Robin. But of course, we go through that in detail. Another question is, Hana, let me just look at it. I was wondering if a vata person should avoid working at night. Yes, they should avoid working at night, because staying awake at night. Now, if you're a kapha person, you should work at night. Doesn't mean all night, but you should, a kapha person should sleep like 11 o'clock and wake up at like 4 or 5 for them to be completely balanced. I get up early, but I'm like in bed by 10. And if I have to, being kapha, for me to be awake till 10:30, I'm looking at the clock. When can I go to bed? So I started doing some yoga and walking just to give you an example. So vata person should be in bed because they need their 8 hours of sleep at night. Pitta person need the least amount of sleep. A typical pitta should have 6 or 7 hours, and as they grow older, 5 to 6 hours. They probably don't even need as much because they're pretty, as soon as they get up, they're ready to go. Let's look for other messages. And pacifying means milk, ghee, dairy routines. Yes, pacifying always means bringing down. So I told you, when you hear bring vata down or pacify, it always brings to the minus sign, V minus, reduce. So how do you know what they're talking about? Whenever they say, let's reduce vata or bring vata down or pacify, it all means to bring vata down. Because when we calculate the Vikriti numbers, the Vikriti numbers are always, let's say it's a V20, vata is 20. We need to bring it down from 20 to whatever, 15, right? We need to bring that number down from Vikriti to Prakriti. So always reducing. That's usually how we talk about Let's reduce kapha means let's balance kapha. Let's reduce pitta means let's balance pitta. Make sense? Okay. I am done, and I'm going to hand over to Dr. Priyanka, and you guys can take a 1-minute break.